Okay, what was last class? Called obstructive uropathy. Okay. What is the cause of hydroureter? Okay, Roshan will say. Roshan, what can be the cause of hydroureter?
Ma'am, there are extrinsic causes, intrinsic causes, and functional causes.
Causes are intrinsic causes. Okay. Then
Extrinsic causes are retroperitoneal carcinoma, aortic aneurysm.
neoplasm.
Lim-
Don't say carcinoma. It can be benign or malignant tumor, which causes pressure effect. Okay.
okay, ma'am.
So retroperitoneal tumor only. Then
Aortic aneurysm,
good.
retrocable ureter,
Yes, very nice.
inflammatory bowel disorder, retroperitoneal hemorrhage, and
Okay, retroperitoneal
lymphos.
trace hemorrhage does not cause pressure effect when it is encircled and enclosed in a sac-like space, okay, or cavity. Hematoma solidifies, then only it causes pressure. So hematoma, hemorrhage followed by hematoma, both are okay. Then
Lymphosome.
okay, so where we need to see obstruction to cause hydroureter, which organ should be evaluated? In hydronephrosis, okay, what we studied, or in obstructive uropathy, what we studied is the proximal portion, the organ which is proximal to site of obstruction gets dilated. So hydroureter means the ureter is dilated. Okay, it can be unilateral or bilateral. Now, while mentioning the cause, you people have to say, well, if it is ureter, there is obstruction at the level of bladder, at the ureteral orifice of the bladder. Suppose right-sided hydroureter, so right-sided junction of ureter and bladder is obstructed either by constriction, okay, or restriction, or stone, or tumor from extrinsic or intrinsic side, isn't it? If it is bilateral, the whole trigone or entire bladder is affected. There is some obstruction, either there is huge stone, or there is neoplasm, or something that is causing obstruction. So it is below the ureter. Only bladder or urethra can be affected by some pathology when there is hydroureter. That's why I didn't ask hydronephrosis, I asked hydroureter. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Everyone. Okay, now start. Can you see the slide? We are talking about renal stones, known as renal calculi, also known as urolithiasis or nephrolithiasis. In the first picture, there are two stones. One is in ureter. So above this portion of ureter, there will be hydronephrosis. Okay. Proximal ureter will have hydroureter, followed by hydropelvis and ultimately hydronephrosis. Here there is a stone in the trigone area of bladder. Can you see the lower portion? So there can be, it is just the orifice, ureterovesical orifice or junction. Here, if there is obstruction, then only left side of ureter and kidney will be affected. Now there is stone, big stone in pelvis. So pelvic calyceal system will be affected and there will be hydronephrosis. So it depends upon the site. If the stones are smaller, they may pass with the flow of urine. If they are bigger, they cause pressure effect, obstruction, hydronephrosis, ischemia, necrosis, and many more complications. Now, what is renal calculi? They form at any level in the urinary tract, but mostly the origin is from the kidney. Okay, in kidney they are formed in renal tubules, and outside kidney they occur in ureter or bladder. So in kidney, where does it occur? It occurs in renal tubules, and it is basically composed of metabolic products that is present in glomerular filtrate. When glomerular filtration occurs, the solute which is present in filtrate, those metabolic products are responsible for formation of calculi. Now, why only few people get calculi, not others? Okay, so those filtrates or those metabolic products are high in concentration, almost near to the maximum solubility. you must have the concept of saturation and supersaturation, isn't it? Must be knowing what is saturation, what is supersaturation. In chemistry also you must have studied. So if you dissolve, you take half cup of water and keep on dissolving sugar. At one saturation point, what will happen? Sugar will no more dissolve, isn't it? So that is supersaturation. तिमीहरू मन्दिर जाँदा त्यो सेतो सेतो प्रसाद खाछ, इलायची दाना भन्छ, खाछ सबैले?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that is supersaturation of sugar. Okay. Now, what is the etiology? The etiology depends upon the gender, the food habit, the water drinking habit. So basically, the etiology is increased concentration of stone constituents, metabolic products that is causing stone formation. Increased concentration of those metabolic products in glomerular filtrate is the main cause. Now, how that occurs? Okay, depending upon some metabolic diseases itself. All right. Then changes in urinary pH. The alkaline pH, there is very high chance of getting stones. And urinary stagnation. Person who have habit of holding urine or infrequently passing urine can have supersaturation because of stagnation. Then there are certain normal physiological stone inhibitors, okay, in urine. If those inhibitors are absent or there is presence of infection, bacteria, okay, then dehydration and hypercalcemia or calciuria. If there is increased calcium excretion, if there is increased intestinal absorption of the metabolic products, vitamin D intoxication, hypercalcemia, isn't it? And as I said, urinary pH, if it normal urinary pH is acidic, if it is alkaline, there is chances of supersaturation of the solutes. Then high oxalate diets. Can you give example of high oxalate diet? Tomatoes are rich in oxalate and they are precipitators. All right. Then citrate is inhibitor. So if citrate is deficient, oxalate is excessive in food, so we should have very particular in choosing the food. We all like tomato ketchup and tomato chutneys and keeping tomatoes in our vegetables, isn't it, in our curry? But excessive tomato person who has other risk factors can cause precipitation of stones. Now, male gender is more at risk. Obesity, obese people who has got family history of stone diseases, so there can be recurrence. The person who has past history of stone disease can have recurrence. Then lower food intake, high animal protein diet, higher vitamin C, all these can cause citrus food, all these cause precipitation of metabolic products. Then some medical factors like gout, hyperuricemia, and neoplasm causing cell turnover. Now, all of us know urine is ultrafiltration of plasma, and this ultrafiltration is a complex fluid which contains minerals, inhibitors as well as promoters. So inhibitors balance the promoters of inhibitors inhibit the supersaturation, and normally crystallization do not occur, okay, until there is imbalance between promoter and inhibitor, or if there is no supersaturation. The crystallization of minerals or metabolic products only occur when there is imbalance between the inhibitors and promoters. Suppose there is a hypercalcemia, but there is inhibitor of calciuria or inhibitor of stone formation, then natural inhibitors, then there will not be any supersaturation. So basically it is an imbalance. So urine is supersaturated, then these are the stages of stone formation which you have to mention if you are asked verbally or in exams. So first, because of various risk factors, there is urine supersaturation because of imbalance. Then there will be crystallization followed by nucleation. There will be growth of the stone and aggregation of the stone. Then there will be crystal cell interaction. Crystal will interact with the cells, and then there will be more aggregation, more growth, and ultimately this crystal will be converted into a stone. That stone really resemble the stone you see outside. Okay, so along with this process, in the process of crystal formation, there is renal tubular injury, and this will further give a risk factor of infection, more crystallization, more super saturation, because tubule is responsible for concentration. So there will be alteration in concentration, there will be supersaturation, and ultimately stone formation will occur. So what we need to understand that basically there are two phenomena. One, there is supersaturation by stone forming constituents, whether it is calcium or oxalate or uric acid. Okay, and this crystal which is formed by the supersaturation, they act as needles. We were talking about two basic phenomena. One is supersaturation, another is crystal. In supersaturation, crystal act as needles, and there are more and more crystal accumulation, and there is precipitation. Okay, so in case of calcium phosphate supersaturation, just hold on. So for the interruption, they're very important calls. So there are certain conditions that forms a stone. The one here is supersaturation, which causes crystallization. Crystal acts as needles, so there is more and more crystal accumulation, aggregation, cell interaction, and ultimately there is calculite formation. Now, above all these things is supersaturation, higher concentration of metabolic products filtrate above the limit of saturation. Other things that contribute is lower urinary volume, increased fluid loss from the body, either causes of dehydration or lower fluid intake or more fluid loss. It is excretion of the stone forming products. If they are not absorbed, not reabsorbed by tubules and are more excreted, then there is chance of stone formation. And high plasma volume, high filtrate level, low tubular reabsorption from the filtrate. So what we have to understand physiology. What is the function of tubule? What is the function of bladder? What is the function of ureter? How urine is formed? So basically, urine is ultrafiltrate. Now, during this process of ultrafiltration, glomerular filtration, almost all needed things are reabsorbed and remaining things are excreted. But those excretion, if it is higher than normal solubility level, then it starts getting crystallized. Okay. Now, what are the condition of those supersaturation? Either it is its production is more, or absorption is more, or its inhibitors are less. Okay. Either production is more, reabsorption is less. If it is reabsorbed, it will go back to blood. If it is not reabsorbed, then it will go back to urine. So, and plus, what will happen? There are less inhibitors. So all these things sum up and cause stone formation. Now, what is the cause of change in the urinary pH that is very much responsible for causing stone? Altered urinary pH is one of the key factors. One is bacterial infection. Normal acidic urine is converted to alkaline because of bacterial infection, and or there is some other factor like drugs, medicines that can alter the urinary pH. Now, what will happen in alteration of pH? There will be precipitation of salts. Salts which are soluble during acidic pH started getting precipitated in the alkaline pH. Okay. Urinary stagnation is due to obstruction of flow. Obstruction of flow can be functional, okay, can be voluntary because of urinary stagnation, can be voluntary because of holding habit of urine, especially in kids, or there is some mechanical obstruction like neoplasm, stricture, constriction, depending upon the site. All right. Now, what are the inhibitors? We must know the inhibitors, if they are deficient in water urine, can promote stone formation. All right. What are those Inhibitors, very important, is citrate, pyrophosphate, glycoproteins. Particularly glycoproteins inhibit growth of calcium phosphate and oxalate crystals. Then RTA, renal tubular acidosis. In type 1 RTA, there will be hypocitruria, means citrate excretion is lesser, so there is promotion of stone formation in renal tubular acidosis. The clinical feature. Have you people ever seen the cases of this renal calculi? Have you heard among students, among siblings, among family, relatives, anywhere? Yes, anyone?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so what was the symptom? Who has seen?
Pain in the
Pain in the
back side.
yes. So the location of kidney is in the lumbar region. So there is typical pain in the lumbar region. Okay, lumbar region is your mid of the back or slightly lower of the back in the lateral side, isn't it? You know the vertebral level, even in second year must be knowing L1 to L4, L5 vertebral levels, you know. So the kidney basically lies in the level of L2, 3, 4. All right. And the symptoms are sudden onset. They are not gradual because there is colicky type of pain. Colicky भनेको दुख्ने छोड्ने. Okay, colicky pain, we say normally flank pain, that is lumbar pain. And typically this lumbar pain diagnoses to groin. Do you know the groin area? Where thigh meets the abdomen is growing, linguinum, isn't it? So depending upon the stone migration, there is sudden colicky pain which starts from lumbar region and migrates transmits towards the groin. Okay, and the stones, they are smaller and more hazardous because they get lost from pelvis. It is dilated tissue, dilated area. It is well accommodated in pelvis. Then when it travels to ureter, it may get lost and produce more colic and more trauma to ureter. Okay. Then hematuria can be microscopic or gross because these stones are eroding the tubular surface, pelvic surface, ureter surface. So there will be hematuria because these stones are not easily able to enter the ureter, so they are traumatizing the ureter. Okay. If it is able to accommodate for many days or for many months, this stone can be asymptomatic and may found incidentally also. Okay. Now types of calculi are very, very important, and depending upon the prevalence, most common type of stone is oxalate, calcium oxalate calculi, along with calcium phosphate. Means the stones of calcium salts constitute 70%. Okay, then there is another stone known as triple stone, which contains three constituent, also known as struvite stone: magnesium, ammonium, phosphate. Magnesium ammonium phosphate is less common and it constitutes 15%. Uric acid is associated with gout, hyperuricemia, so it constitutes 5 to 10%, and cysteine is less common. Okay, there are other some rare like xanthine and all stones. So basically calcium stone. Our body calcium metabolism is more predominant than any other minerals. We have intake of calcium in the form of milk, dairy products, isn't it? uh, like medicine, calcium medicine as such. Okay, uric acid occurs in association with hyperuricemia. The another common is struvite, which is because of different deficiency of the inhibitors. Now, stones are mostly unilateral and less commonly bilateral, and most common site is renal pelvis and renal calyces. Okay, within renal pelvis and renal calyces. And if there is more crystallization and crystal is acting needles and more constituents are getting precipitated over that needles, then there will be formation of a stone that will take the shape of this pelvic calyceal system. Okay, it will take entire shape of pelvic calyceal system, and this type of stone is known as staghorn calculi. Okay, staghorn calculi. I will show you the picture later on. Okay, here it is. So you can see staghorn. It is taking shape of entire pelvic calcium system. This is struvite stone, magnesium ammonium phosphate, which is big and has take shape of pelvis as well as calyx. 80% of the stones are these calcium stones. As we said, 70 to 80% are associated with calcium salts. So they are calcium stones, and the type of second salt, like whether it is oxalate or phosphate, it depends upon the pH and availability of oxalate, whether oxalate is also precipitating or not. Generally, when there was no ultrasound or no CT MRI, the physicians or surgeons used to diagnose these stones on the basis of X-ray. So how will X-ray help? Stones are opaque. They are radio opaque, white, hard radio opaque. So they will cast shadow in X-ray. And calcium phosphate usually forms staghorn in renal pelvis, becomes larger. Calcium oxalate is usually smaller and present in ureter. Okay, so the most common is calcium oxalate followed by calcium phosphate, but overall calcium stones are commonest. The causes of the calcium stones are hypercalciuria, in which there is increased calcium excretion. Okay, how much calcium excretion is abnormal? In men, more than 7.5 millimoles per day, and in women, more than 6.2 millimoles per day. There may or may not be hypercalcemia. So measuring hypercalcemia only is not adequate. Then what are the different calcium stores? Depending upon the availability of oxalate, whether there is hyperoxaluria or not, there will be either calcium oxalate stones or calcium phosphate stones. Now, what happens if there is hyperoxaluria? There will be formation of calcium oxalate stones, and the responsible things are factors are diet rich in oxalates or increased oxalate absorption because of fat malabsorption, isn't it? Due to inborn errors, there will be more calcium excretion, oxaluria, more than 400 millimole, and that can cause stones. And see, they are very nice, glistening. They are looking like corns, isn't it? Mature corn. And see the second picture. Do you know what is it? The calyces. They are looking floral. Now, uric acid stones. The uric acid stones are lucent, so they can go miss in X-ray. These are the only stones that they are radiolucent. It constitutes about 8%, means it is less common, associated with hyperuricemia, and it usually forms in acidic urine, while other forms in alkaline urine. They are generally small, friable, yellowish, and they may form staghorn because they go on precipitating. They can be visualized on either ultrasound or IV pyelogram. Now, the mechanism is, as we said in pathogenesis, nucleation. Okay, first nucleation occurs by calcium oxalate, which acts as needles and it attracts more and more uric acid, which is present in blood and urine. Inhibit all these effects, urine restriction diet, alkalization of urine, because it occurs in acidic urine. So alkalinization of urine and increased fluid intake are beneficial. So you can see uric acid stone, which is quite translucent, and it usually go missed in X-ray. Now next is magnesium ammonium phosphate. We call triple mineral, triple stones. So it constitutes 10%, and it is also called as struvite stone because it is mixed stone, triple stone, magnesium, ammonium, phosphate. Okay. It is associated, usually this triple stone is associated with UTI. Magnesium, ammonium, phosphate is associated with UTI. There is role of organisms, gram-negative organisms like Proteus, Klebsiella, even E. coli that metabolize urea into ammonia and causes alkaline urine and then stone formation. And this stone, as I said, I show this picture, is quite associated with staghorn. Means it expands in the renal pelvic calyceal system, and then only gives symptoms and seek medical treatment. Now, cystine stone is one of the rarest stone caused by cystinuria in acidic urine. Okay, it is faint radio opaque, means some outline can be observed in X-ray. and it is soluble in alkaline urine, it forms in acidic urine. So if we do alkalinization of urine, we may get benefited if by the solubility of these crystals. And the treatment is penicillamine, which binds cysteine to form a compound that is more soluble than cysteine. So this is cysteine stone. Now, what are the differential diagnoses if a patient presents with lumbar pain with hematuria? Not all lumbar pain with hematuria is renal calculi. It can be UTI. Even in UTI, there can be pain with hematuria. It can be malignancy also. And in female, it can be ectopic pregnancy that presents with lumbar pain. So, being clinician, you should not jump to the diagnosis of renal calculi. You have to do ultrasound. You have to do some urine and blood investigations. Basically, urine analysis. So, in laboratory investigations, the urine analysis includes the routine urine examination, whether the reaction is acidic or alkaline, whether there is sugar or albumin, there is presence of RBCs or not. Okay, and there are crystals. There can be triple phosphate crystals. There can be oxalate crystals in urine. So all these crystals, calcium, oxalate, cysteine levels can help in diagnosing that there is cystinuria, means there can be chances of a stone. Then pH. pH is alkaline, which is normally acidic. So higher pH suggests either the UTI or magnesium ammonium phosphate stone. All right, and then we'll go back to the stones again. So in the stones, you have to remember types of kidney stones, that is must, and the urine analysis. What will you evaluate? The most common is calcium, and whether it is calcium oxalate or phosphate depends upon the substrate. Most common is oxalate. Triple stone has tendency of forming stag 1, and this triple stone is known as struvite stone, which is second most common but constitute only 15%. Isha Kumar is just joining or rejoining? We are about to end the class. So this is all about nephrolithiasis, urolithiasis. Okay, anything you want to ask? Any confusion till now? If anyone has missed anything, I will focus slide from beginning. Just mention that you haven't noted, because that should not be the excuse. Okay. So urolithiasis means formation of stones. The stones are calculi. They are formed anywhere in the urinary tract, starting from kidney, pelvis, ureter, bladder, even sometimes urethra, and they are derived from the glomerular filtrates. Okay, if the glomerular filtrate is supersaturated, reaches near maximum solubility, there is precipitation. So constituents of stones are increased in urine, and there is also change in urinary pH, volume is decreased, there is dehydration. Okay, so and there is inhibitors deficiency. All these cause along with UTI give rise to or give chance to stone formation. So other associated risk factors are, it is more seen in male and obese with past history or family history, because same kind of food habit or same type of genetic determination can be there, and some medical factors are particular for some particular stones like hyperuricemia gout. There will be uric acid stones. Now this slide is very, very important. There is urine supersaturation followed by crystallization, and that crystal, that nucleation of the crystal acts as needles. Suppose there is calcium oxalate or oxalate crystallization, it attracts more of calcium, phosphorus, oxalate, and many other, even uric acid, it attracts everything. Okay, so that crystallization followed by nucleation, and then cell interaction. There is growth of those nucleus. There is more aggregation, more interaction. Ultimately, there is stone formation. Okay, and most important determinant is those constituents which exceed their solubility, means supersaturation of any metabolic product. All right. Now, what may be the supersaturation? Either increased production or decreased reabsorption or decreased inhibitor, plus this dehydration, lack of water, and all. So the inhibitors are most important. Inhibitor is citrate, followed by pyrophosphate and some glycoproteins. Smaller stone has chances to get lodged in ureter, while bigger stones keep on getting as a staghorn, okay, and they damage the kidney. It presents with the lumbar pain that transmits to groin. Groin to groin pain भन्छौँ हामी. Lumbar regionलाई clinically loin, र inguinumलाई हामी groin भन्छौँ. Loin to groin radiation of pain. Suprapubic radiation. Pubis radiation हुन्छ when the stone passes from pelvis to ureter to bladder if it is moving. Okay. These are the stone pictures. So if anyone has missed, this is uric acid is translucent, right? These are opaque. See, calcium oxalate is opaque. This is quite translucent, right? And this triple stone. Triple stone has magnesium ammonium phosphate and it is faintly opaque only. Cysteine stone. Differentials, we have to rule out other medical conditions and we have to do for urine analysis along with radiological examination or imaging in the form of ultrasound or myelogram. Any question till now?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm ending the class.
Ma'am,
Yes, who is this?
ma'am, हामीले मधुमेह केसलाई भन्छौँ टाइप 1 लाई कि टाइप 2 लाई
Both.
अनि इन्सुलिन जुन हाम्रो नर्मल लाइफ टाइप 1 इज युजुअली ड्युरिङ चाइल्डहुड भन्ने छ एउटा त्यहाँ लेखा छ हैन अनि हाम्रो मेरो बाबालाई डायबिटिज छ भने चाहिँ टाइप 1 हो कि टाइप 2 मैले कसरी थाहा पाउँछु
See, there are basically major type is type 1 and type 2 diabetes. Type 1 is early in onset, type 2 is late onset, okay? If it is before 30, chances are high that it is type 1. It is after 30, chances are high that type 2. All right? To determine whether it is real type 1 or type 2, you have to do autoantibodies estimation because type 1 is autoimmune in origin. Right? Type 2 usually obesity, family history, and many other factors. You have to determine HLA and autoantibodies in type 1. But with certain investigation and history and age estimation, we say type 1 and type 2. While type 1 is very severe and type 2 is gradual in onset. पहिला oral hypoglycemic agent controllable हुन्छ पछि control भएन भने insulin हुन्छ. So most of the person who is getting after 30 or 35 are type 2. कुनै कुनै in between हुन्छ त्यसलाई हामी मोडी भन्छौँ maturity onset diabetes. They don't fit in type 1 or type 2 but they occur in early age. There is no autoimmune basis, isn't it? But they are neither type 1 nor type 2. So what we say? MODI, maturity onset diabetes. Now your question is your father has diabetes. Okay. So if your father developed diabetes after the age of 30, it is most likely type 2. And is he on insulin?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so he started his treatment with insulin or he started his treatment with oral hypoglycemic agents?
It's 7 years, I guess.
He started directly with insulin treatment or oral medicine?
With oral medicine.
Yes, so he must be type 2 because type 1 cannot be controlled with oral medicine. One has to take that because there is a high chances of absolute lack of insulin. Oral medicine works only when there is some insulin coming out. And it only increases the insulin secretion of some remaining active pancreatic cells, plus it increases the receptors. In type 2, usually overweight, obese people, they have insulin resistance. The cause of insulin resistance is lack of receptor. So these drugs actually promote receptor. So if it is type 1 diabetes, it cannot be controlled mostly by oral hypoglycemic agents. So your father and most of the father age group people, they get type 2 diabetes mellitus. There are some young people who have no such risk factors. They're slim, trim, athlete, active, everything, but they get diabetes because of some unknown infections like mumps, like cytomegalovirus infection. There is insulinitis which goes underdiagnosed or undiagnosed. So they get, there is no much history like familial history or autoimmune basis, but they develop and they are called maturity onset diabetes. Okay, the people who get in quite elder age is usually almost type 2, And even if there is quite severe insulin deficiency, the initial phase managed with OHA, oral hypoglycemic agent, followed by insulin. Clear?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
You take care, stay safe wherever you are.